Hey, what's up guys? So Ashwagandha, like Tongkat Ali, is a supplement that I've been taking for a little over 5 years now. And when I first started taking it, it was somewhat like a miracle supplement for me. It dramatically reduced my stress levels and improved my mood as well as my performance in the gym. However, it has been a very long time since I've taken Ashwagandha on a daily basis. And the largest reason for this is that when I take it for extended periods of time, that I tend to run into side effects.
Well, that sucks.
And I don't appear to be the only one that has experienced this. My buddy Lucas over on his YouTube channel, Boost Your Biology, has done a fantastic job of outlining some of the side effects that he encountered. And he had a particularly negative experience with Ashwagandha. And now my experience has been mostly positive. However, I did want to do a video diving a little bit deeper into just mostly all of the known side effects of Ashwagandha so that you guys can have an idea of what to keep an eye out for if you are deciding to supplement with it on a daily basis. Now, the way I want to do this is similar to my video on the side effects of Tongkat Ali, which is to outline the primary mechanisms of action of Ashwagandha, as well as the specific side effects that are associated with those mechanisms of action. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, the first mechanism of action that I want to talk about is Ashwagandha's ability to potently increase thyroid hormone levels. Now, for a lot of people, increasing thyroid hormone levels can be a good thing because it's going to increase glucose utilization and increase energy levels and possibly even lead to increased muscle hypertrophy. However, for those that already have sufficient levels of thyroid hormones in your bloodstream, increasing thyroid hormones beyond this point can actually lead to some side effects, namely nervousness, fast heart rate, and insomnia. Now, again, the reason for this is that thyroid hormones do increase glucose utilization and just energy production in general and have a general stimulatory effect on the nervous system. And so when you increase thyroid hormone levels beyond what they typically are, there is a risk of running into things like fast heart rate and nervousness and insomnia and things along those lines. Now, again, people that already have high levels of thyroid hormones in their bloodstream or individuals that are on a low carbohydrate diet are at a particular risk of experiencing these side effects. And the reason for that is, again, thyroid hormones are used to process and metabolize glucose. And so if you aren't consuming a lot of glucose, there is an increased risk of running into these thyroid hormone related side effects. Now, the obvious way to mitigate against this is to simply increase your carbohydrate intake, and this may help to somewhat relieve some of these thyroid-related side effects. However, it is also worth noting here that Ashwagandha has been shown in a couple of different studies to actually suppress the endogenous production of thyroid hormones. And the reason for this is that Ashwagandha directly stimulates the thyroid gland to produce thyroid hormones and actually shuts down your pituitary gland from releasing thyroid-releasing hormone. And so Ashwagandha actually suppresses thyroid production, similar to how anabolic steroids suppress testosterone production. And so, long story short here is that if you are planning on taking Ashwagandha for an extended period of time, that this is definitely something that you want to look out for. Now, the second mechanism of action that we're going to talk about is Ashwagandha's ability to modulate the GABA A receptor. Now, this is one of the primary ways by which Ashwagandha can actually improve sleep and improve anxiety, as well as even improve the release of gonadotrophic releasing hormone, which subsequently leads to increases in the production of testosterone. However, there are a number of side effects to look out for here as well, namely a lethargic mood and sedation. And the reason for this is that GABA is one of your primary inhibitory neurotransmitters, meaning that when you increase the signaling specifically through the GABA A receptor, that there is a notable reduction in anxiety and stress levels. However, if you already have sufficient GABA signaling, you can actually tend to run into some side effects, namely, again, a lethargic mood and sedation. Now, people that are already consuming other GABAergic substances like L-theanine and taurine, as well as lemon balm and valerian, are at particular risk of experiencing these side effects. However, one of the primary ways to actually mitigate the risk of these side effects is to actually consume compounds that are NMDA agonists, such as D-aspartic acid and creatine. And the reason for this is that glutamate is kind of like the opposite to GABA. So glutamate is your primary stimulatory neurotransmitter, and NMDA is your primary receptor that glutamate binds to in order to carry out its biological action. And so by consuming substances like D-aspartic acid and creatine, which have been known to bind to this receptor, can actually counteract some of the negative side effects that come from stimulating or overstimulating the GABA receptors. Now, the next mechanism of action that we're going to talk about real quick is ashwagandha's ability to increase serotonin signaling. Now, ashwagandha does this primarily by, one, increasing the expression of the 5-HT2A receptor, as well as possibly even increasing just general levels of serotonin as well. Now, this is one of the primary mechanisms by which ashwagandha exerts its antidepressant effects. However, for those that already have sufficient serotonin signaling, there are a number of side effects to keep in mind here, namely what is known as anhedonia. Now, anhedonia is a condition in which you lose motivation and lose pleasure and lose libido, and this is largely because when you dramatically increase serotonin signaling, that it also will dramatically decrease dopamine signaling. And because dopamine is such a motivating and somewhat makes doing things feel good, when you suppress dopamine too much, you tend to lose pleasure in things that you typically enjoy doing. And so this is definitely a side effect to keep in mind here. However, one of the primary ways that you can mitigate against this effect is to simply just consume dopaminergic precursors like phenylalanine, tyrosine, and mucunapurines. Now, if you actually end up experiencing this, I do think it is super important that you immediately discontinue ashwagandha supplementation. However, for those that are continuing to take it and want to prevent this from happening in the first place, again, taking dopamine precursors is a good method to mitigate against the risk of this side effect. Now, the fourth mechanism of action that I want to talk about real quick is ashwagandha's ability to modulate the adrenaline receptors. Now, adrenaline, like dopamine, is a highly motivating neurochemical, and so for those that have depressive symptoms, taking something like ashwagandha may help to improve depression-like symptoms. However, because adrenaline is such a potent neurochemical, there are a handful of side effects to keep in mind here as well, namely nervousness, fast heartbeat, and insomnia. Now, I think the reason for this kind of goes without saying. When you increase adrenaline levels, it's going to increase energy levels and motivation, but you also run the risk of experiencing some slight anxiety and insomnia and a fast heart rate. And so for those that already have adequate levels of adrenaline or adequate adrenaline signaling, you are at particular risk of experiencing these side effects. However, one of the best things to keep in mind here is that it is super important to just simply time your dosage of ashwagandha well, especially if you're trying to use it for improvements in sleep. I do think it is best to take ashwagandha in the mid to late afternoon, simply because if you take it in the morning, you run the risk of kind of blunting the morning cortisol spike too much and kind of leading to a lethargic mood for the rest of the day. And if you take it in the evening time, you run the risk of disrupting your sleep. And so taking it in the afternoon seems to be somewhat of a sweet spot for most individuals. And so again, if you're trying to avoid some of the sleep disruption that might come from taking ashwagandha too late in the day, taking it in the mid-afternoon is a great way to mitigate against some of these side effects. Now, the last mechanism of action that we're going to talk about, as well as the associated side effects, is ashwagandha's ability to reduce and potently suppress cortisol. Now, this is the primary means by which ashwagandha is able to potently suppress the effects of stress, as well as one of its mechanisms that is responsible for its ability to increase testosterone. However, it is also important to keep in mind here that if you decrease cortisol too much, that you can actually suppress your natural stress response and actually end up leading to a lethargic mood as well. Now, a lot of individuals find that when they take ashwagandha for too long, they just end up feeling super fatigued, and a large reason for this is that they are suppressing their cortisol cortisol too much. Now, chronically high cortisol is not a good thing and can lead to symptoms of chronic stress. However, again, cortisol is needed by your body for proper stress responses. And so when you combine this with ashwagandha's ability to increase GABA signaling and serotonin signaling, there definitely is a risk of ashwagandha kind of leading to kind of what I've called the gray effect, where you lose motivation, you lose pleasure in things that you typically enjoyed. And so that is just one of the major side effects to keep in mind when you're taking ashwagandha. And even though there are ways to mitigate against these side effects, if you do run into these side effects, it is super important that you discontinue use and take frequent breaks from supplementation. Now, I do think it is also worth mentioning here that ashwagandha does not appear to be liver toxic. I hear this rumor floating around a lot of different places on the interwebs, and there are a couple of different case studies that try to make a link between ashwagandha consumption and liver toxicity. However, it is an extremely loose connection and is associated with extremely high doses, and there are a number of studies that have demonstrated that ashwagandha actually appears to be liver protective. And so anything in extremely high doses can be taxing on the liver. I mean, shoot, if you take just a little bit too much caffeine, you can actually go into cardiac arrest. And so the dosage definitely makes the poison, and that somewhat appears to be the case with ashwagandha. In super high doses, it may be difficult for your liver to process it, but in adequate and responsible doses, it actually appears to be somewhat of a liver protectant. Now, all in all, when it comes to ashwagandha supplementation, there is literally no one-size-fits-all approach. Some individuals take it for super long periods of time and never encounter any side effect, and some people encounter side effects the first day they take it. And so it is super clear that ashwagandha isn't for everyone. However, a ton of individuals can benefit from it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm such a huge fan of getting blood testing done before you start experimenting with specific supplements. Blood testing gives you a super good snapshot as to whether or not you should try a particular supplement. And so if you guys are interested in getting an at-home blood test done, there is a link in the description down below where you can get 30% off of an at-home blood test, as well as some links to some supplement guides, some free supplement guides, as well as my favorite products. But other than that, guys, I think I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.